Because you've never run before, most of the people in this race have, people are wondering how you're going to conduct yourself. I just want to ask you about a couple things.
I don't know.
Will you run negative television ads against your opponents as common in politics?
I don't see it. I'm not so sure I'm going to do that many ads. People know what I am and they know who I am.
Will you run negative television ads against other Republicans?
I might.
You might.
I might. I don't know that I will, but I might.
Yeah. And if you did, what would be off limits? What wouldn't be off limits? Would you just run them on policy, or might you run them on their finances or their personal stuff?
I wouldn't do personal. No, I wouldn't do personal. I would probably do policy. I'd probably do maybe the past.
This guy is now the front runner. He should be held to account, just like me. He should be asked, as he was yesterday, how are you going to pay for it?
One thing you've been saying about him is he's low energy. Did he seem low energy there?
No, he seemed a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah.
But, you can't force that. And it was a little bit forced.
He got a little tangled up in this question about anchor babies, right?
Terrible. He took the Hispanics, and all of a sudden he changed Hispanics and Mexicans with the Asians, and now the Asian community is furious at him, and that was terrible. That was terrible.
That's not a phrase that you have any hesitance about using throughout this campaign.
No, I'm using it. Right. And nobody's complained about it when I use it. They complain about it because they don't expect he would be using that.
How much of your own personal wealth will you spend on this campaign?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it depends. Look, I'm an intelligent person. I would say that it could be that my campaign doesn't resonate. And I'll call you guys and I'll say, John, Mark, it's not working. I'm not so proud. I'm proud, but I'm not so proud. And I'm certainly not stupid. And it could be that it's not resonating.
There are people less wealthy than you who have spent tens of millions of dollars.
Mitt Romney, for one.
Mitt Romney. Will you spend, if it's going well?
I'm going to spend millions. I'm going to spend many millions. Well, I will be up to tens of millions in the not-too-distant future. Because I'm, instinctively a good business person, I'm not going to throw money away. If I think I can't win, I'm going to call you guys and say, fellas, I think I did a pretty good job.
Are you committed to going all the way through Iowa?
I would be totally committed unless I see for some reason I'm not going to win.
Hillary Clinton has proposed that you should get rid of that carried interest loophole and tax carried interest at the same rate as ordinary income. Right. Do you agree with her?
Well, I'll tell you this, and the answer is yes, the carried interest is really a tremendous burden on the country.
But in this respect, you want to tax carried interest in the same way as ordinary income is taxed?
I would take carried interest out, and I would let people that are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year pay some tax, because right now they're paying very little tax, and I think it's outrageous.
Right. So that would also affect people in limited real estate partnerships, of which you were in a fair number.
I'm okay.
So you're proposing that you'd like to raise taxes on yourself in this instance.
That's right. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm, ready, willing. You see my statements. I mean, I do very well. I don't mind paying some tax. The middle class is getting clobbered in this country. The middle class built this country, not the hedge fund guys.
What is your views of the pros and cons on the Ex-Im Bank, and where do you come down on it in the end?
I don't like it because I don't think it's necessary. It's a one-way street also. It's a sort of a feather bedding for politicians and others and a few companies. And these are companies that can do very well without it.
You think back on all the Fed shares of the past, who do you think has been the best?
Well, right now you have Janet is sort of more of the same, and I have to tell you, I often talk with two hats. For the last couple of months, I've been a politician. I've been in your world, and previous to that, I've been a business person. I've always loved low interest rates as a developer, and I've always done very well with low interest rates. And I think that, frankly, you look at what's going on now. The problem is, I think you're creating a bubble, and the bubble could explode. I liked Paul Volcker a lot. I thought he was a terrific guy in so many different ways, and he had a good pulse, and he had a good to me he was doing what had to be done.
Will campaign finance reform be an important part of your platform, and if so, what's the cornerstone of your idea about campaign finance reform?
Well, I think it could be. It wouldn't be number one. I mean, number one would be trade. Number one would be Obamacare, repealing and replacing, strengthening up the military, taking care of our vets. We have a lot of things. We have things. We could talk all day long about things we have to do. But a campaign, finance reform certainly would be something that we could talk about, and I think more than anything else is transparency. I mean, there should be total transparency so that if somebody's going to do something, and I think one of the reasons I'm so high in the polls is because everyone knows that all of the lobbyists, many of which I employ and used to employ, and I know many of them, but they have tremendous power over, in fact, with the Kochs, I called it puppets, they have tremendous power over these candidates.
In the past, you have expressed the view that the way to deal with the war on drugs is to legalize drugs. Are you still in favor of legalizing drugs?
Well, I see so many things. I look at the Colorado situation with the marijuana. It's very interesting because over the last little while, a lot of bad things are happening up there with respect to people's health and the effect that it's having on people. I am not in favor of the legalization of drugs.
I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. When I talk about the Bible, it's very personal.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Some people say you're hopelessly insecure, and that's why you act the way you do. Are you insecure about anything?
Maybe it's a combination of both.
Are you insecure?
Everyone's insecure.
What are you insecure about? Your looks, your personality, whether people like you?
I don't know. I don't think of myself as insecure. Probably we're all insecure. Maybe insecurity is what makes you successful. Who knows?
But be introspective. What are you insecure about?
Well, it is my hair.
Yeah. You love your hair.
Like it or not, that's okay.
Right, so what are you insecure
better than most.
What are you insecure about?
My chipping. Okay?
In golf.
My chipping.
Yeah.